Hey everybody, welcome to the first official GYLS Momentum session. Super happy to have you guys here. We have a really cool deal this year. In the last couple years, we used to do it weekly. The next year we did it monthly. And this year what we have is the youth leaders running the sessions with the help of the team leaders. It's going to be really cool. So to start off, the times, right now it's 7 p.m. for me. It's going to be different times based on where we're at. So next month we have someone from Hawaii, Colorado, and Portugal. So that'll be an interesting time frame to figure out. But just so you guys know, it'll be once a month. We may do some stuff in the middle, and the time frames are going to be based on where the speakers are at. So if you're in Australia or Europe or Hawaii, we'll make sure that different sessions are accommodate for you. Now, really quick and really important, you very likely got to this video by the GYLS grads Facebook group. There's also an event. And so in the group, pinned to the top is the link to this video. Under that is where you're going to comment your questions, your comments, say hello, and etc. So let's get started. So real quick, my name's Sergio, and we've got the amazing Katie right here, and you're on. Say hi.
Hi.
And we'll get to her in a quick second. But so I just want to start really quick with what we called our team. So we were Team Heroes. We were Team 3. And we named our team the Team Heroes for a very specific reason. Everyone that goes to GYLS, all of you that go forward home after, go home as heroes in your communities. One of our main outcomes, Katie and I, because we Skyped before we got to GYLS, like 2 or 3 months before, and we Skyped and we're like, what's our outcome for our team? What's the one thing that if we achieve this, like we're set, we won? And it was to create an experience for our team, for our ambassadors, that they would never forget as long as they live, and that they would never forget us. And it was really cool because on the last day when we were handing out the certificates, a lot of our ambassadors signed our shirts, and a lot of them signed, "You guys are amazing. We'll never forget you." So it was really cool. So that outcome was achieved. Now, I'm going to introduce Katie and let her introduce herself really quick. And then she's going to get right into life after GYLS and what does that mean. If any of you guys have any questions at all, again, in the grads Facebook group, the pinned post, comment under there, all of your questions. If you really need to, send me a private message. I have Facebook open right now. And without further ado, we'll pass it over to the amazing Katie. You're on.
Hi guys, I'm Katie and I was the youth leader for Team 3. I live in Colorado and I'm a preschool teacher here, and I'm just really excited to share with you guys what I have to say. So without waiting any longer, life after GYLS isn't always the easiest thing, because you spend a week with these people in this amazing place and you come back and it's like not everyone is completely on board with the new you or the new decisions that you've made for your life or your goals or anything like that. And it can be your friends, it can be your family, it can be your school, it can be anything like that. And really, GYLS isn't about the week itself, it's about how you are when you go home. And that's what it's all about. So, but it's not always the easiest thing going back, and we all encounter a lot of the similar problems. For me, when I came back after this year, even after my 3 years of, GYLS, I had a friend, one of my best friends, tell me that they were like, "I don't like the new you." And I was like, wow, like that personally was like, wow, I've just spent the last week falling in love with myself all over again. And then you tell me that I'm, like you don't like it. And so it's hard, but it's not really necessarily a problem, as it is a chance for you to grow and an opportunity for you to find a way to turn it into like a better question for yourself.
Very cool, Katie. Katie's amazing. We're going to rock this next hour. It's going to be unbelievable. Now, before we move on to the next thing really quick, I just want to address, obviously, there was something that happened last week that you guys watching and everyone in the group has stepped up amazingly to support the person and what happened. And so what we want to make sure, some of the things we're going to talk about peer group and who we surround ourselves with and how we show up. And we're going to talk about habits. Now, what we've been doing with all those videos we were making is amazing. It's honestly incredible how much we've come together, and I've watched a whole bunch of those videos, seen a bunch of people make them. We want to make sure that what we do to support each other is long term and that it doesn't just fade away after a week or a month or even a year. We want to make sure that we can put some habits in place. We can surround ourselves with some people that will ensure that the momentum continues long term, right? We don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. We want to handle it. So the first question I have for you guys is, well, first of all, why do we love GYLS so much? Think about it for a second, because it's really interesting. There's lots of different reasons why we love GYLS. And Felix ran the last momentum session of last year, and he nailed it on the head. I've been going for 5 years, and I never fully thought of it this way until he finally said it. He said that we all love GYLS because of who we are when we're there, how we show up. And he said it's the best version of ourselves. So I have 2 questions for you guys. Make sure that you write them down. You can write them down with a pen and paper, type notes if you're taking notes, or if you want, if you feel free, comment in the grads group right under the pinned post, comment right there. And it's a closed group, so people outside of that group can't see unless they're accepted by an admin, which is Felix or myself or Carolyn or Mehul. So the question is, who were you at GYLS and how did you show up? Write that down. If you want, comment. I would love to get a couple of comments so we can read some. Write it down. Who were you at GYLS? Take a second, write that. And then the second question is, how have you shown up at home in the last 3 weeks? Did you go forward home like we talk about, or did you go back home? The 2 main things we're going to talk about today are peer group. Did you go back to your old peer group, or did you maybe create a new one? And did you go back to some of your old habits, or did you go forward with some of your new ones? So comment some of that below, and then we'll check a couple out. I know there's a lag from being live to the questions, so we'll continue on from there. So peer group, that's where we're going right now. One of Tony's mentors, so the reason that GYLS even exists is because of Tony. I'm sure you all know that. One of the biggest reasons Tony is who he is and became who he is because of one of his mentors, Jim Rohn. He recently just passed away a couple of years ago, but he was like the speaker when Tony was just a kid in his 20s, in his teens and 20s. And Jim had this concept of the 3 different kinds of people that you surround yourself with. And Katie's going to elaborate and tell us about the 3 different kinds. And then we'll get into it some more. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Katie.
All right, so the 3 groups of people that Jim Rohn says that we need in our life, and Tony says the same things, is that we need people that help you raise your own standards and uplift you, just like GYLS people is a good example. People that are on the same level as you, the same path, the same level of growth, which can be, if you're an ambassador, it can be your peer ambassador. If you're an alumni, your fellow alumni, and especially for me and my youth leader friends and all that, those are the people that I go to bounce my ideas off of. And like your friends at home. The 3rd group is that people that, because you've been blessed with this knowledge that you have now from GYLS, you have the duty of helping these people raise their own standards and uplift them. And you need all 3 because it balances. If you have too many of one of the group, it sets off, it just doesn't make it like whole.
Awesome, yeah. And that's perfect, Katie. You nailed that. So some examples, like Katie said, some of the different categories. So people that help you raise your standards. For me, some specific examples would be Nate. And I'm not sure if you're on here. He might be. He has been my roommate for the last 2 years as a team leader. And we're both team leaders, but man, he is light years ahead of me. Like, he is such a role model and example for so many people. I joke about it. I say, like, I'm an ambassador on Team Love Wins when I'm with him, because I learn so much every time he opens his mouth. It's amazing. So he's someone that I would put in that first category. So we're going to call that category 1, people that help you raise your standard. He helps me raise my standard in so many ways. He's such a good coach that even though so many people think I may be doing all right, he has the authenticity and integrity and the congruence to call me out on certain things, that he just holds such a higher standard for me than most people would. So that's an example of category 1, Nate. Shout out to Nate. Team Love Wins. And he's running the next session with George and Chantal, so that's going to be awesome. make sure you look out for that one. The second category of people is people that you bounce ideas off of. That's, again, some of the other team leaders, some of the coaches that I have from GYLS, some of my friends, Luis, Omi, my brother and sister, whole bunch of my friends that we all hang out with. And even some of them are in category 1, where they, like Luis especially, helps me raise my own standard. And then there's some people who you have the obligation and the duty, you have the responsibility to help them raise their standard. Now, we're going to call that category 3. And there's a difference, there's a distinction we want to make with category 3 that's important. Sometimes it's people that you're in a position to help them, like some of my team hero ambassadors. Like, I can coach them, I can help them out. And then there's sometimes people in category 3 that instead of wanting to raise their standards and you can help them, they want to lower yours. And I'm sure we all have friends like that, that they don't want to receive your coaching, or they don't want your help, or they don't like the new you, or whatever it may be. They just don't want to raise their standard. And so one of our deepest needs is love and connection. And so to not lose love with that person, they may raise their standard a tiny bit, but you're going to lower yours to kind of meet in the middle. And so that's a category that we want to be careful of. Sometimes a lot of us will have too many friends in category 3 and not enough in category 1. We're going to talk really quick, and we're going to kind of flip the order of this. I had a friend who we grew up through elementary school and in high school together. He's a great person. He's a good person, but he was making some terrible decisions. And some of those terrible decisions ended up landing him in jail for like a month or 2. It's not even a big deal. And then when he got back out, there's some people that you can try and raise their standard, and then there's some people that you have to love from a distance, bless them on their way, thank them for the gifts that they gave you and the lessons you learned with your time with them, and then you just have to fork in the road and go your own way. So another question for you guys: which groups do your closest 5 to 10 friends fall under? Do most of your 5 closest friends fall in category 2, where they're all kind of friends, bounce ideas off each other, fairly the same as you? Do you have maybe too many in category 3 that are maybe trying to lower your standard? Or do you have a decent amount in category 1? So that's the first question. And then Katie, if you want to handle the second question, I'll send it back to you.
So you may have more people in one group than the other, but for you personally, what group do you think you need more people in so that you balance yourself out in the 3 groups?
Yeah, that's a powerful question for sure. Because sometimes, so an example, I was coaching someone on Thursday, and the example I gave them was health, because a lot of what we've been talking about is health. And so we're talking about, maybe you have a friend who's a 2, they're like in the middle, and in one thing, like in schoolwork, they're really good at school and they're smart, and maybe they're a 1 in that area of their life where they help you with your homework and you guys do your thing. And then when it comes to food and health, they always want to get junk food, and they're lowering your standard. Like, oh, I don't eat that salad. You don't have to work out today. Let's have some junk food. Let's go to Taco Bell. So you want to make sure that the average of the person is important, but each person has different areas of their life where they're different. So maybe for your schoolwork, you want to find people that are a category 1 in school. They do really well in school, and surround yourself with those people when you're in a school environment. And then when you're going to go out to eat with friends, you want to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are in the first category for health, where they're going to hold you to a higher standard for your health. Do you have anything else to add, Katie? I'm going to send it back to you while I check out some of these questions.
I think with peer group, it's very important, and I've experienced this firsthand, is that it's very important to know the difference between someone that is in category 3 or they're nowhere near being ready to be helped yet, or they're not ready to accept it themselves yet, and that you should be cautious that might happen because not everyone, has been to the same event and experienced the same things. And some people just don't think that they're capable of change. And you just don't want to pour too much into someone who you'll never receive any results from. And that could be damaging to you. And so I think it's important to keep an eye out for people like that just aren't ready to be uplifted or grow yet.
Very cool. Everyone's on their own path. Everyone is where they're supposed to be. And if you have that belief, you don't have to feel bad that maybe someone doesn't want your coaching or your friend doesn't want the new you. You can just know that they are where they're supposed to be, and you can try and help them and offer your help wherever it's accepted. And that's that. The second key thing we want to talk about, because we talked about peer group, we want to talk about our habits, because that's the second really important thing for when we go forward home, to make sure that life after GYLS, because like Katie said, that's 1 week, but we all know that what happens at GYLS is only happens so that when we go forward home in our real life, that we have these tools and strategies, we have states, we have new stories that help us live a better life and contribute more and grow and be happy. And that's the whole point of all of this. So the second thing we're going to talk about is habits. Again, there's 3 different kinds of habits. There's some new habits that we want to adopt that are going to be good for you. Some habits that we want to maintain, maybe from GYLS, and then some habits that we maybe want to minimize and or get rid of. So the first habit, or the first category, is habits that we want to, some great habits from GYLS that we want to keep going. Habits like learning. Like when you guys are at GYLS, you guys are in the zone, like you're focused, you guys are listening to Marlon, there's greatness in this room, and you guys are learning like you're in that zone. That's a really good habit to keep yourself in daily, if not like several times a week. Pick up a good book, watch TED Talks. That's a really good habit to be in. The energy you guys had at GYLS. Think about at the end of day 3 or 4, after 4 long days, you wake up super early to go to the Pedagoscu course thing. You're up super late for the debriefs, and then the next day you guys are fired up with energy. Like you guys are chanting, "We want the wheel." Like it's crazy. That level of energy is a habit. It's a muscle, and you can train it. And so the way to keep that energy alive is to create a habit around it, and we all know how to do that. The honesty and the openness you had in the debriefs, that's a really powerful habit. If you're only ever really open like that once a year when you're at GYLS, that's awesome. And if we can maybe practice that weekly, it would make a significant difference. Some of the new habits that we can adopt, there's a whole bunch of those, and I'm sure you guys can comment. So actually, comment in the group, in the pin post, some of the great habits that you guys are going to keep. And then while I'm talking about some new habits, comment some new habits that you guys think we can do, because we're all going to see this whole thread, so we can all just brainstorm awesome ideas of habits that we're going to have, right? So some new habits. Here's a really great one. Come into these sessions. These sessions are really powerful. And the whole reason, I'll be quick with this story because we're already 20 minutes deep. The reason I even created these, so my first year of GYLS, long story short, go to GYLS, it's amazing, go back home, back to my old friends, back to my old habits. That's the reason why we're even doing this session. Second year at GYLS, we go to GYLS, and then I go forward home because of 2 things: the peer group I surrounded myself with and the habits I created around that peer group. We Skyped each other weekly. We called it Vision to Reality. Shout out to Luis. He's the reason this all exists. And we kept each other accountable. We set challenges for ourselves every single week for an hour. We actually usually used to go 2 or 3 hours. It was crazy. And a whole bunch of people used to get on there. Maria, Nick, Omid, Rachel, a whole bunch of people. That habit and surrounding myself with that peer group was literally the difference between going back home and going forward home. The third year, I asked myself a quality question, and I'm like, man, like, GYLS is amazing, and a lot of people go back home. They don't go forward home. How can I help people have the experience I've had with going forward home with this? And I'm like, maybe we can like videotape our sessions that we're having. And then I'm like, what if we just do them live and people watch? I'm like, well, it turned into this. We did it weekly, then we did it monthly, and now here we are. So the whole reason this exists is because of these two things. I set a new habit with a new peer group, and I asked myself a quality question, and then here we are right now. So some other habits. So coming to these momentum sessions, obviously, but we've also got Skyping people, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, Snapchat, Instagram DM, text message, Facebook message, WhatsApp. There's so many ways to connect with each other, do anything. And like some of my good friends like Luis, we don't talk every single day. Maybe we'll Snapchat each other once in a while. I'll tag them on an Instagram picture. We'll actually like message each other for something. And then we'll actually like Skype or FaceTime like once in a while. You don't have to do one or the other. Like there's lots of different ways you can stay engaged. Even just liking people's pictures on Instagram or Facebook, like they'll see that interaction. Following people's stories on Snapchat, so many different things. The music from GYLS is a really powerful anchor, and the youth leaders on here, I know you guys know what anchors are. When you hear a song from GYLS, a song that we played during the board break, it takes you right back. Like it's so powerful. And shout out to Nikki who made a GYLS Spotify playlist. So if you just search GYLS, I think 2016 on Spotify, you'll find it, and then you can follow it. There's tons of awesome songs. And that was a whole lot from me. So we're going to send it back to the amazing Katie. She's been itching to get this part out. Katie's going to talk about how to maybe minimize and or get rid of some old habits that may not be serving us at the highest level. Katie, you're back.
All right, so coming forward home from GYLS, you have these habits that you may want to get rid of. And it's not always easy getting rid of them because you kind of have a couple of options. You can either quit cold turkey to stop doing it. You can kind of break it down, get rid of it like slowly over time, or you can keep the habit and continue, just doing this bad habit. So if you're trying to break it down, which personally I've done since I've gotten back, it's a lot easier to say, today I'm going to do this only this many times, or you're only going to allow yourself to have, I saw this picture on Instagram and it said, allow yourself 5 minutes a day, and then of emotional time or whatever, and then the rest of the time you just got to be a straight up gangster. Like the rest of the time you got to be 100% yourself. And I was like, yes, like that's great. And then it's like it breaks down that habit of letting yourself be in a place where you're not going to perform at your 100% best. And for me, that's the way I break down my habits. But it also works for some people to just straight up just be like, nope, no more. Like that's done. Like no more of that for me, and just go on living without that thing. And you could, you reap benefits from either one.
Awesome, Katie. Now, if any of you guys have any suggestions on any of the stuff we've talked about, some other great new habits that we can adopt, some awesome ones that we can keep going, or maybe how to get rid of some habits that we can get rid of, and then maybe how to get rid of them, that would be awesome. But now here's the best part. It's question and answer time. We actually went like half an hour. That was awesome.
Well,
we have a solid half an hour to just answer your questions. And there's a whole bunch of you guys on there. So first off, if you're on here, comment your name. Some of you guys may be delayed significantly from hopping on live a little bit late. But if you're on here, just comment your name, say, hi, I'm here. And we've got a couple of questions lined up already. So we'll go to those. Let me see. Some habits, actually. David commented having a gratitude journal, which is awesome. That's a really great habit. Let's get to this first question. It's actually a two-part question from Sasha. What do you think would be the best way to monitor my accomplishments and set new goals? So we'll go with that one first, Katie. It's all you.
All right, I got this one.
You got it.
So to be able, for me, when I wanted to make new goals and to be able to keep track of them, I did this with Rachel Bell a few years ago. She had a vision board seminar thing with a bunch of people in Denver here. And so we all sat around and we cut out pictures of magazines and we cut out quotes and we cut out a bunch of things like professions and things that we wanted to do in our lives. And we cut out letters and things like that. And we put them on this big giant poster board and decorated it however we wanted and labeled it and did basically whatever we wanted to achieve, we put it on that board. And then I still have it in my room up to this day. And I check things off as I do things, as I became a youth leader, as I traveled to different places around the world. You cross things off and you're like, yep, did that, did that, did that. And so to be able to visualize it every day and be able to cross things off and see that you're getting closer and closer to being able to achieve your goals, like that's how I've done it, and it's worked out great.
Very cool. we're going to keep it on you because it's a two-part question. The second question is, and actually, hold on, let me just touch in really quick on that question. The question again was, what do you think would be the best way to monitor my accomplishments and set new goals? Tony has a method for goal setting called RPM, and he doesn't even call it goals. It's the rapid planning method. It's the result-focused, purpose-driven, massive action plan. So a lot of people are like, my goal is to lose 10 pounds, but that's not actually the goal. That's not actually the outcome. That's the action you're going to take. Like, the outcome is to be healthy. Then you have a purpose, a really strong reason why, and then you have a massive action plan of 10 different things you can do. People set the goal. My goal is to run 5K. Like, that's not actually the goal. That's the action you're going to take. The goal is to be healthy, to feel alive and in my body. The purpose can be whatever you want. And then the action is to train and eat healthy and then run 5K. So I would definitely recommend checking out Tony's audiobook, Time of Your Life. It's 10 days and he just talks about RPM the whole time, and it's amazing. Katie, the second question, which I'm going to send to you and you're on, is can you please explain the concept of the journal that Marlon showed us, the one with the mission statement and all the different pictures? And shout out to Sasha. This question was before we even went live. They're fired up and just wanted to get it.
So the purpose of that journal was for you to have someone that you look up to give you a tool that you can take forward home and be able to keep track of your success and write down your successes and your magic moments, and to be able to log what's good and what's bad and what you can do to grow and what's great about every situation, and ask those quality questions that you have for yourself, and then have them down on paper to make them real, to make them more significant in your mind.
Very cool. Awesome. Now we've got a whole bunch of people commenting some great habits. David commented having a gratitude journal. That's amazing. And we've got the GYLS gratitude group, or gratitude challenge Facebook group, and you guys have been lighting it up. There's so many posts there all the time. If you're ever having a bad day, you just go to that group and just scroll. And instead of scrolling your Facebook newsfeed about bad news all around the world, you go to that group and you just scroll, and it's all of the best things ever. It's amazing. Some other great habits. Chantal, one of our youth leaders, you're running the next one. The mirror challenge, appreciating yourself every morning before you fully start your day. Super good. And Ibtihal, getting in touch with at least one GYLS peer a day, every day. That's awesome. And Rachel asked a super quality question. Shout out to Rachel Bell. Katie, how can I be as awesome as you are?
Well, I don't think you want to be like me. I think you want to be like you. That's the answer.
Yeah. We've also got Chantal, Zoe, and I are here supporting you, Katie. Shout out to Katie. And then we've got a couple of questions. We've got 3 more lined up. So we're going to go to this one because this one's kind of long. Bear with me while I read it. And then, Katie, you're going first on this one. This is from Christopher. So my friend is very difficult to communicate with. Who here has a friend who's difficult to communicate with? I have a ton. He snaps and comes across very aggressive and attacking almost all the time. It's very hard to have conversations with him, but he's a close friend of mine, and I don't want to stop talking to him. How should I go about responding and keeping my cool, because it can be very difficult to stay calm and not elevate to his level of anger. Also, sometimes he'll be in a bad mood and then like dump all this negative energy on me and my buddies, and then leave happily while now we are angry. How can I help myself escape that feeling of anger and not repurpose it and attack back? He's also really bossy and rude. I think it may be because he's insecure, but I'm not sure. It's hard to talk with him, but he's a good friend. So what should I do?
All right. So if that was me and I was in your shoes and I was going to help this friend, because now that you know all this stuff and of course you want to help this person, so props to you for wanting to help in the first place, is I would try to get to the root of the reason why he has the reason to get so angry in the first place. As opposed to elevating to his level of anger, if you can find the source as to why he gets the way he is, then you can connect and communicate with that person as opposed to the person that he becomes when he gets angry. So that way you're communicating with the source as opposed to the effect of whatever's happening around him. And from there, then you can, it's like getting to the core as opposed to just dealing with surface level things.
Very cool. So Katie, what about when we talked about the two different kinds of category 3 friends, the people who you have the ability to raise their standard and they want your help versus the people who just want to lower your standard?
Right. And
Which category do you think this friend might be in?
If this friend leaves happily with his friends upset, I'm not sure if that is necessarily someone who's ready to be uplifted and someone who's ready to grow yet. And that's fine. He's just on a different path. And you can bless him on his way, and you can love him from a distance and send him your support and be there for him. And you can still be his friend, but you don't have to let the negativity affect you. And you can just love him from a distance.
Yeah, and just to add to that really quick, like I've gone through this, I'm sure Katie has too. Everyone here has had friends that have been toxic, and that's kind of the word we use sometimes. If you stay with this friend for a long time, let's just call it 5 or 10 years, 10 years of hanging out with this friend, they're within your top 5 inner friends. Think about where you'll be. Versus if you maybe move them to your 3rd or 4th outer circle and you hang out with them once in a while, and you maybe get some new friends that are maybe in category 1. You surround yourself with some people who are aspiring to the same things you are, they hold themselves to the same standard of states that you hold yourself to. Think about where you'll be. And with that answer, you know what you need to do. For me, I've had friends that have not made the best choices, but we grew up together. Like that one friend who ended up in jail, cut, you're done. Like that's my standard. Some people may be cool with that. I've had other friends who weren't making the best choices, but they're still good people. And so I removed them from my inner circle, hanging out with them every single day, to maybe let's catch up once a month and go for dinner. And when you remove yourself that far and you're just catching up with them, you don't have that deep of a connection to have them be that angry or get upset. They're like almost grateful for the little time that you have with each other. So my suggestion would be, it's quite obvious. You either need to significantly extend or remove this person from you, push them away, or for good. It's your call, though. We can't tell you what to do. We can just give you maybe some questions you can ask yourself, like what will it be like in 10 years if this is your top 3 best friends? Or if you find yourself some new ones, there's, I don't know, 300 from GYLS that can, and it's not going to be hard to find some new ones. And what if maybe you don't cut them out, you just stay connected just from a distance? So that's what I have to say with that. I'm going to send it back to you, Katie, because we've got more questions coming in that I can answer. There's so many. Okay. Where are we going next? The second question is, okay, how do you know when to stop trying to help a friend? When is enough enough? And that came from Mathilde. That's a great question.
That is a great question. And I've been in the exact same boat where someone can be in your inner circle, or they could be a family member, or you just feel like that removing them and pushing them farther away maybe isn't an option. But for me, and I've had to experience this firsthand, is drawing lines for myself, is to be able to say, after a certain point, I will not go further. I will not allow someone to push me past this point, and after that, I'm done. Like, bye. And it's been really helpful in my life, because before I would just be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed before, and then you're in the same place that they are. And so my advice to you would be to be able to set a boundary for yourself as to when enough is enough, and to let that be it and not be able to have that boundary pushed.
Awesome. Next question. We have a bunch, so I'm trying to queue them up. This is from Ben. How can one articulate and share their experience at GYLS to people who haven't experienced? That's a heavy question. That's a great question. It's so hard to try and explain what GYLS is to people. You there, Katie?
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. You're on.
All right.
That's all
so,
you. Did you get the question?
Really
how do you tell people what the heck GYLS is?
All right. It's hard to explain to people, because it's hard to say, yeah, I go to this thing where we break boards and then this guy stands in front of us and makes a whole bunch of people cry at the same time, and you know, all this stuff is happening, and we're in groups, and I was a hero or I was a dream catcher. And stuff like that is hard to explain. And I even had my own stepmother ask me if I was in a cult, and like that's kind of hard to explain to someone, and it does sound a little bit difficult to someone who hasn't experienced any of the Tony events or anything, you know, outside of their comfort level. And so my advice to you is to explain it at its most minimalistic like essence, is that it's a leadership camp for youth where we meet up and leaders from around the world teach other people how to be their best. You don't have to go in necessarily into the specifics unless they want to know about it, but if people are wanting to know basically what you did for a week and why you're so great now, you just gotta just be simple. Tell them this simple answer as to what it is. You don't have to go into the, you know, standing in front of a guy and bawling your eyes out and, you know, that whole thing. Unless they want to know about that stuff, then you can. And after you give them the basics, then the rest of it is just building on top of that. But it can be kind of scary initially to hear if they don't know anything about it.
Yeah, for sure. And just to add to that really quick, whoever you're explaining it to, you want to meet them at their level. You want to be in rapport with them. So I have some friends who are super excited for me when I come back. They've never even heard of Tony. Like, they don't know what the heck that is. But they're fired up that I went. And so I tell them all about it. And I'm like, the Dickens process is amazing. And we do debriefs. And it's like the greatest thing ever. Then I have friends who are like, ugh, where were you? And then you're just like, I was at a youth camp empowering the leaders of the future, the people who are going to be your bosses and the prime ministers and the people who are going to run the world. That's where I was. So you want to just explain it in a way that meets the person that you're talking to where they're at. If you're talking to someone who's really reserved and kind of unsure about where you were and they don't really know if they like the new you just explain it very logically. Like, I was at a youth camp with people from all over the world and it was the best time ever. Or if it's someone who's really excited for you, then you can go to town and just go in. So it sounds like the person who you're maybe explaining it to might not be super excited about it. So, there's like a tag on question to this one from Christopher. To tag on, if my friends think the whole thing is stupid and a scam, I should just let them have their own opinion and wish them on their way. So I don't know how like a summer camp for kids is a scam. If you go into explaining it like what the Dickens is in 30 years in the future, like that might come off without the context of what it actually is. Anyone who like doubts it or is skeptical, you just very logically say it's a summer camp for kids from all over the world, and we play games and we learn leadership skills and we raise our standards and we become better people. Like it's really simple. Katie, that's the video's back on you. We got a private message question from Harsh, relatively long, but bear with me. So I was an ambi this year, and on the very last day I got inspired by Heather's story about contribution. And I thought of ideas with which I could help the struggling third world society that I live in, but there's a slight problem. Next weekend I get a reply from one of the top picks of university. If they say no, I'll probably be taking a gap year and then go forward with what I have planned. But ironically, if I say yes, I won't be able to. I'll have to leave ASAP for my college, although I do want to get a good education and want to make my family proud. I also want to help the community. I'm not sure what to do. P.S. It's 2:30 in the morning out here. I'm in Tanzania, Eastern Africa. That is wild. And I just woke up to ask you this. I thought of watching the entire video tomorrow morning when I'm in an active and focused state. That is so awesome. 2:30 in the morning. What's up, man? Did you catch all that, Katie?
Yeah, I got it all.
All right. Should I do my contribution project or should I go to college?
It sounds to me like a win-win situation either way. Like, you continue your education, and just because you continue, if that's what happens for you, it's not like you can't contribute things along the way, and contribute after college too. It's not like that has to completely just stop. And if you do the gap year before you go to college or whatever you have planned, obviously that's a win-win situation too, because you get time for yourself to be able to contribute. So instead of looking at it as one bad option, one good option, you could ask yourself some quality questions and say, what's great about both of these? And then at the end of it, they're both great options no matter what you choose to do.
That's a fantastic answer, Katie. I don't know where you got quality questions from, but you're full of them. So, um, my answer to that would be we obviously can't tell you which one to choose, which is, and I'm sure you didn't want like us to tell you which one. You just want us to give you some questions you can ask yourself to come up with a better answer. So, first thought that comes to mind is why not do both? Both and. There's a concept instead of either or, you do both and. You do both of those things and one more thing, because why not? I think that's from Keith Cunningham. Um, there's a like school will take up a lot of your time, and the rest of the time you can either play video games or play sports or whatever, or do your contribution project. You want to have balance, obviously, but at the same time, you can very likely figure out how to balance both. If you want to super full time do your contribution project and you know that's what you're committed to, there's lots of other people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg who like didn't finish school to go build their thing and worked out for them. Now, those guys dropped out of like Harvard and like really good schools. They didn't just not go to school, did not care. So like if you're going to commit to that contribution project 100%, you're committing your life to that. Like you're not just going to half do it and then try and go back to school, but you didn't get accepted anymore. If you go to school, you may be putting off your contribution project for a while, but school is definitely a good idea. A lot of people bad talk school. School is awesome. And it's not even about the things you learn in school. School is about learning how to learn. And that's a really powerful thing. How to think critically, how to ask better questions. Like school is really legit. So I would ask yourself, just think about if I do just one or just the other or both, because you've always at least got to have three options. Lay out those three scenarios and then just ask yourself which of these three, like this is your life and you're going to dedicate years to this. Out of my life and the time I have left, where would I rather place my chips? And then do that. Go all in. You're allowed to change your mind, but just make a decision. That's what I have to say about that. All right. Katie, oh man, where are these questions at? What is the next question? Oh, Jenna from Team Heroes. What up, Jenna?
Yes.
Yeah. What is this question? When you happen to be around negative people and negativity in general that you can't escape, how do you maintain a positive mindset? And then shout out to Heroes. What up? All right, Katie. How do you get away from negativity, a negative environment, negative people, negative everything?
In her scenario, you were saying that she feels like she's trapped in this negative environment, but I feel like there's no negative situation that you have to stay in. This is 100% your life, your experience. You're in control. These people, they're just people that are on their own mission. Like you have 100% control over who you surround yourself with. And yeah, it could be your family where it's hard because they're there all the time, but that just makes it another opportunity for you to grow past that, to be able to say, yeah, I lived with someone or I was best friends with someone who was really negative and I was able to overcome it and I kept a positive mindset through it all. And these things happen for you, not to you. And I think that this is happening for you for a reason, and that everything that you need is within you now.
Boom, mic drop. So I actually have a really funny story because I've been going to GYLS for 5 years. I've been to a whole bunch of UPWs, Day with Destinies. All those things don't like fix you. This stuff is still gonna come up. They just give you tools which work if you use them. And so I work with this person who's literally the most negative person you've ever seen in your whole life. Like, I'm not even joking. I've never met a more negative person than the person I literally have to work with. And so I could just, like, there's really nothing I can do. That's where I work. We could fire her, but that's probably not going to happen. I could quit. That's kind of not the best option either. And so you can direct your focus in a certain way. And the way you direct your focus is by asking questions. And so sometimes, like, I'll ask myself, what's great about this? And like, you're like, nothing. And then you make yourself answer. And so I'll be like, okay, well, man, what's great about this is I'm getting a major lesson in patience. And it's true. It's 100% true. I would not get this like PhD in patience that I'm earning right now if I weren't in this situation. And so with that, I'm almost like grateful for it, even though it's so annoying. And like there's certain negativity you can't escape. One of my methods is like I got headphones, and so I put them in, listen to music, and I don't have to listen to her like doing her thing. But so asking yourself a better question when you're in a negative situation, find a good question you can ask yourself, because the question is going to direct your focus to pull your focus away out of a negative situation into a positive one. Back to Katie. Next question from Danny. How not to be influenced by the bad news that we get. I'm doing my best not to be influenced, but there's always this fear that something will go bad that I won't be able to control, and how to maintain others not to be influenced by them. I'm living in Poland, and here a lot of people believe in very negative things because of the things happening in Europe. That's why I asked this question. Katie, it's on you.
Okay.
You get that?
Sergio, do you want to take this one?
You want me to reread? No, I'll just reread it for you.
Okay.
So how do you not let bad news or bad situations influence you negatively?
Okay, I got it.
Doing my best not to be influenced, but there's always this fear that something's going to happen that I can't control. So just to kind of start with that really quick, there's lots of things in life that you can't control. You can't control the situation, the external stimulus. The only thing you can control is how you react. There's a guy, Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he was in the concentration camps, and he said a quote. I don't know if it's a quote exactly. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's basically like, they can take everything from me except my will, my free will to choose how I'm going to feel and what things are going to mean. So when you get bad news, you're not going to be influenced by it unless you allow it. And you're not going to be angry or upset at things that you can't control unless that's where your focus is. Send it back to you, Katie, so you can put the cherry on top of that.
Okay.
How do I not let bad news influence me?
Well, with all the bad news that is going on with the world, there's plenty of good news. You just have to have the eyes out looking for it. Like, I scroll through my Facebook news feed, and of course I see all the horrible things that are happening in the world and in the country and everything like that. But if you focus on that, then that's what you'll take away, and that's what you'll integrate into your life, as opposed to finding the good, like finding the polar bear that was released back into the woods or whatever, like finding the good little nuggets and collecting them into, like the heart of gold that you can find in the news. As opposed to following the bad news, find the good news.
That's so awesome. And all the good news is in the GYLS grads group, the Magic Moments group, the Gratitude Challenge group. If you scroll through that for 10 minutes, like, you can't not be in an amazing, beautiful state. Debbie, shout out to Debbie, Team Awesome. I do gratitude before I go to bed, even if it's for a minute. It replaces fear. You can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. It's also setting up a playground of good thoughts and makes for better dreams. That's awesome, Debbie. You're the best. Jenna, love you guys. Thank you so much. David asked, is the not giving a damn attitude a good thing or a bad thing? Not giving a damn. Katie, what do you think?
Well, it's not that you don't have to give a damn. I think it's more, you have 100% control over your attitude, and you can call it the not giving a damn, but you can care about something without having to be necessarily involved in it, necessarily having to be in it and like producing things for it and like contributing to that thing. So you can care about something and you can say, oh no, like no thanks, but that doesn't mean you have to care about it like expressively.
Very cool. Let me see if we've got any more questions, because I'm pretty sure we do. They're all lined up somewhere. Where are these? Wow, we have so many. Okay. If you guys, so we'll go for another 10 minutes. It's 7:50 here right now. I guess it's 5:50 for you.
Mm-hmm.
Still a bunch of viewers, so if you guys have questions, now is the time. Um, so Katie, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So this is your third year coming home from GYLS. How has it been different for you from your first year, your second year to this year, going forward home, life after GYS in terms of peer group and habits? How have the 3 years been different?
Okay. So I'll do it from backwards. Coming home this year, and Sergio, you and I talked about this before, where I felt like I needed to get my advice across to anyone who had a problem. Like, if someone had a problem, I was like, here, take my advice. Like, I know all these things, take it, like, do what you will. And coming home this year, I'm going to reserve the advice so it's more impactful for when they come to me to ask for it. That way, the person who's ready to be advised is ready, and I'll be more ready to give them that advice when they're more open to learning it. And then coming back as an alumni, that was definitely the year of the peer group, and that was definitely the year of rooting through who was there to serve me and who was going to be there for the greater good and be there for me in the long run, and putting people in and like be in like a game, like putting people in and taking people out and pushing people away and just organizing my life and the people in it. And after my first year at GYS, it was a complete transformation, and I changed a bunch of my habits. I mean, I don't eat the best. I eat Taco Bell like 3 times a day, but I go to the gym now, and that's good. And like I run, and I was on the dive team right after. Like I joined like about 1 billion sports right after my first US. Like I wanted to be involved, and I wanted to contribute, and I wanted to do stuff like that. Like I made it my mission after my first GYLS to take on more and just be more and integrate myself in more and make it a habit.
That's awesome, Katie. All right. Last couple minutes is going to become the Katie interview show. For those of you guys watching, because I know there's still a bunch, if you have a question, now's the chance. I had such a quality question lined up for you. So we're just going to go with until it comes back to me. Why did you want to be a youth leader this year? Because you have to apply. Like they ask you, and then you have to apply. Like you have to want to go. Why did you want to be a youth leader?
I wanted to be a youth leader because I wanted to be the person that my youth leader was to me, my ambassador year. I wanted to be that role for another whole team of people. I wanted to be that person, and I wanted to be able to give the same experience that I had to 25 other people on my team. And I wanted to be that person that they say, wow, I'm never going to forget them for the rest of my life. And I want to talk to them every day. And I'm never going to forget what they gave me. I wanted to be that for a group, for a concentrated group.
That's amazing. And you definitely were that. You ask any of our heroes, I'll tell you, like, for sure. I have a shirt signed with all their names. Some people sign my shirt, and they're like, thank you, Katie. You were awesome.
That way you don't forget.
That was awesome. So we're talking about peer group and habits. In terms of habits, all 3. What are some habits this year that you kept going, that were great habits that you kept up? What were some new habits you adopted? Running momentum sessions, that's a pretty sick habit. And then some habits that you have consciously tried to minimize and or got rid of.
Okay, so habits that I've kept that are serving me in a good way is I've had a journal since I was like in 2nd grade, and I keep a journal of day-to-day things that happen to me, and or things that happen for me, and I write them down and I look back on them and stuff like that. But Craig Miller, he showed me this year as a new habit that he has a magic moments journal that's separate from like a regular journal, that he has other people write in, and he writes in quotes and stuff like that inspire him and uplift him. And I took the journal that Sergio gave me at the end of the week, and that's what I made into my magic moments journal. And that's like one of the best new habits I've created, is because it's one thing to write down things that happen every day, but not every day is a great day. And so when you have a journal separate that's just for the great days and the great moments and all of that, and the moments that uplift you just by thinking about them, and you're anchored to those moments and those feelings and all that, it's a completely new experience. And so that's my favorite new habit and my old habit that I want to keep going. But so the habit that I wanted to get rid of most was that I noticed in my friend group that it's very easy for us to talk about a person when they're not there, and not in the most positive way. Like, we end up talking about other people that it's not a positive environment. And so coming home this year, I wanted to make it a point that if that starts happening, I can't make them stop, but I'm going to sit there and I'm just not going to say anything. And within the first 3 hours of us hanging out, the first day that I got back, all of my friends are like, why are you being so quiet? And I was like, I just don't want to contribute to the negativity that you guys are producing. And there was a long pause and everyone was like, yeah, okay. And then we started talking in a good way. So we talked about what was happening to us in that moment, and what was good. And I think that was a good habit to get rid of. And it's been more positive in my friend group and how it's impacted them since. And I think all of us have become more positive people because of it, of just me personally, one person in a group of 8 people stopping made all 8 of us break down that habit. Not necessarily cold turkey, but break it down so that it wasn't all the time. And now, like, it barely happens.
That was amazing. You're the best. Oh my goodness. Chantal asked the question, Katie, what was your favorite year and why? And what position do you look forward to when you return?
Chantal, you got me. So this year, by far, the youth leader year was by far the best year. If I had to put it into one word, it would be freedom. And it was the freedom to help other people, because it wasn't like you were forced to help anybody. It was like your choice and your freedom that you had to help these people and to make your impact and your difference. And we had the freedom of us just kind of frolicking around and doing our thing and making our memories and stuff. And it was amazing. Like, some of the best moments I've ever had at GYLS were in moments that weren't structured, that moments that weren't scripted. And that's what made it the best thing. And for definitely for like the next 5 years until I'm 22, right? For youth coach, I can't wait. Talking to all of the youth coaches this year, like in our group message and all of that, of what they do and stuff, like, I can't wait to be a part of that. I can't wait to be one with them. And so that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Big Blue is the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Shout out to anyone watching who's on Big Blue. You guys are all heroes. Christopher said, thank you guys so much, all caps. I needed this to get back on track. I derailed a little. And dude, you're not alone. Like, a lot of us do. It happens. But that's why I created these, so that once a month we can come back and go right back to GYLS. Like, this is just what it is. There's another question for Katie, and then I'm going to hit up yours, Chantal. Zoe asked, Katie, what was your biggest magic moment as a youth leader? These quality questions are coming through so clutch.
My biggest magic moment this year, it's hard because it seemed like the entire week was one just big, massive, like, week-long magic moment. Like, I wish I could have just recorded the entire thing in my mind and, like, rewatch it about 1,000 times. But, I mean, for sure, probably the most impactful, like, on my soul was the board breaking. I don't know how many of you watching were with me when I, like, for me holding your board. But let me just say, like,
if she held your board. Comment if
I was the one holding your board. Let me just say, like, thank you so much. Like, that was just as much impactful for me as it was for you guys. And standing there, although, like, most of you probably couldn't see my eyes because, like, it was just so foggy in those goggles, it was amazing. Like, I've never experienced anything like that. And the way that all the youth leaders got pumped right before, and we had our moment, and, like, all of us looking at each other with so much love right before, having so much, like, knowing that we were going to conquer something before it even happened, made it that much better. And for sure, that was the most impactful for me, the most memorable.
That's awesome. If I had to answer that question for you, what I would have thought your biggest magic moment was, because we're on a team, we're hanging out the whole time. So during the Dickens, the team leaders are all spread out just to make sure it's all good. We hold the space. And we were assigned to the door so that when people want to leave the room, we're there. And so Katie and I are just hanging out watching, and like we're scoping it out, and then people come outside, and there was a couple that Katie walked with and then helped out, and she got them back in the room, and that was so amazing to watch. Another amazing thing was when you were running team meetings with our team, and then I would like say something, I'm like, all right, Katie, it's all you, and then you just handled it. You just handled the team. It was so awesome. So you want to fully just tell the story of losing the video for the flash mob?
Yes, I really do.
Let's go there.
So during the scavenger hunt, one of the we found this one challenge that was do a flash mob, and for every stranger that you get to do it with you, you get an extra 100 points. And I'm sure a bunch of other teams saw it and were like, yeah, like, that's the thing to do. And we were going to be ahead by like a couple thousand points because we got a bunch of people together to do it. And all these people were kind of hesitant, and they were like, weren't really down. They're like halfway in, halfway out. And so I was in charge of taking this flash mob video. And we had the song going, we had everything go. And I was sitting there taking the video, and I'm like, good, yeah, got it, great, guys. And all the strangers left, and everyone was like, woohoo, like, we got it, great job, everybody. I looked down at the phone, and the video was gone. Like, I didn't get it. Like, I thought that it was just, it disappeared. And I was so upset, and I, like, dropped to my knees, and I was sitting on this hill, and I was like, oh, God, how do I tell them that I've done this to them? And right as Sergio, like, he looked at me, and he was like, oh, I totally know it just happened. And instead of him being like, oh, my God, how dare you, and all the AMBs were kind of like, oh, God, no. He was like, what's great? What's great about this moment? And it completely changed the state from what have I done to like, wow, what can we do with this? And then we were all sitting there like working through our emotions and stuff of what had just happened for us. And the girl whose phone I was holding was going through her stuff, and she found it. And she was like, oh, it's right here, guys. No big deal. Got it. And all of us like erupted in like into just like passionate like joy because of this video. But it was more learning about like state management and like what you can learn from a bad situation. It was great. It was a magic moment for sure.
That was heavy. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a cool way of telling that story. That was so funny. All right. Jenna said, you got me so pumped up for the board break, Katie. Totally didn't recognize you at first, though. And bless the fact the video was still saved on my phone. That was so funny. All right. Chantal asked the question for me. Yay, finally. What is your biggest lesson you've learned during all your years at GYLS? That's so heavy. See, Chantal was sitting in on the quality question session, so she knows what the deal is. For me, having been a coach for 3 years and then a team leader for 2 years, my biggest lesson, the biggest gift that I've been given is how much of an impact you can have by the tiniest thing. I've done lots of different things, but one of the biggest things I've done, which was a gift Carolyn gave me, was she taught some of the coaches about presence. And then I taught my home team that 2 or 3 years. And each of the people in my home team taught their whole home teams because they're all youth coaches now. And so this is like rippled like massively, and it's the craziest thing. So the lesson that I got was the tiniest little gift that you can give someone that has a huge ripple effect. The level of impact that you can have on like smiling at someone or giving them 30 seconds of your time of being present and really just saying hello and making them feel like they're the only person that exists. Those tiny little things have such huge impact. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned at GYLS is just these tiny little things that have such huge ripples. I'm going to send it back to you, Katie. I'm not sure if we have any more questions. Let me see. Do you have any questions for me? I asked you one or two.
Yeah. What's been the greatest thing that you personally have accomplished since you've been home from this GYLS?
Ooh, Katie coming through with the questions. Oh man, so background, because Chantal and Katie and all these other youth leaders asking all these great questions. So I ran a session on quality questions, and so they've all just been practicing like asking the best questions ever because questions are so powerful. It directs your focus. It like the way you feel is based on the question you ask yourself. in order to feel that way. Your question was the biggest thing I've accomplished. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. I've filmed some guitar videos. Trying to think of what I've done. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. Kind of went on a date with some girl. That was kind of cool. Just yesterday. I'm trying to look at my calendar because it's been like 3 weeks. Oh, actually, you want to know what? So I'm going to Business Mastery in Vegas next week, and I'm crewing. And then the crew director was like, "Is there anyone on crew who's like a professional photographer?" And I'm like, "I don't know about professional. Like I've had my camera for like a year or two." And then I just messaged him like, "I have a really good camera and I know how to use it." He's like, "You're in." I'm like, "Oh God." But so it's like jumping in and just going for it. So I'm going to be the photographer for this event that's like $10,000 a ticket. So that's huge on like a photography resume because I just do it for fun, but now I'm totally going to just go in. So that's a big accomplishment for sure. I think that's probably the one I'm going to go with. I'm going to send it back to you. What about you? I'm going to throw that right back at you. What's your biggest accomplishment since you've been back? Since you've been forward.
Since I've been forward home, yeah. Well, I posted it in the grads group already, and I don't know if everyone saw it, but I'll say it again. I work at a preschool, like I said, and every day, like I have like my kids do kind of kid things that they do, and I have this one kid, and my kids are 5, so they're learning about manners and they're learning about patience and they're learning about turn taking and all that fun stuff. And I have this one kid who he just has a lot of problems with getting what he wants and getting it in the right way. And so the other day he had punched another child like in the stomach, and the other kid came up to me crying and was like, "He did it," and he was all upset about it. And so I sat down this kid, the kid who had punched him in the stomach who has problems. I sat him down and I was like, I didn't want to yell at him. I didn't want to do that because that's what he usually gets. He gets in trouble every single time he goes and sits by the door, or he misses outside time, or whatever happens. It's the same thing. He just gets taken away from his peers as opposed to being taught how to talk to his peers the correct way. And so I sat him down and I got on his level. I kneeled down and I looked him in the eye and go, "Buddy, what's a better way that you could ask him for whatever he wants? What's a better way you could ask him for the shovel than punching him in the stomach?" And I asked him for 3 ways that he could ask nicely. And at first, this kid was like, "I don't know what you're doing to me, lady, but this is not going to work. Like, people do not respond to this." Like, he was like, "What do you mean? I'll get what I want just fine by punching people in the stomach." And after a while, that whole day, I saw him practicing it, and I would see him start to get upset when like someone would take something from him. I would see him get upset, and I would just give him like that teacher look, and he would turn to them and he would give like the most quality question ever, and he'd be like, "May I please have that back? I was using it first." And he got what he wanted that entire day. And like, he's still learning, so it's off and on now, but for sure, magic moment was that I can have my difference. I can coach like 5-year-olds. Like, that's my job. That's what I've taken on as my job now. And I've learned that nobody's too young or too small or anything like that to be able to ask the right questions and to be able to interact with people the right way.
That's so awesome. And like my whole magic moment, or the biggest lesson I learned, was just proved there again. Like, I ran a session on quality questions, and then you just used one and you could have totally changed this little kid's life. And so I had an effect on that kid that was just like, I just ran this little session. It wasn't even a big deal, but you could have totally changed that kid's whole life forever, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if we have any questions. I think we're good. There's a whole bunch of people on. We went over the hour, which is awesome. We just roll. When Omid ran his session, he went for 2 hours. We can make this like a Harry Potter movie style session. Actually, okay. Let's go here. While you guys, this is your last 2 questions. If you guys want to post a question, we're only going to take 2 more, maybe 3. We'll go 3 if 3 come up. In the meantime, so backstory real quick, and the video's still on you, Katie, because I want them to see your reaction while I'm saying this. So 12 minutes before we get on here, our audio is like messed up for some reason, and there's like this huge echo, and we're like, oh no, this is like, how the heck are we gonna run this session? It's not working. And even before, like a week before, like some of us were maybe a little bit nervous to run this session.
Some of us.
Some of us. And the way that you've ran this session and spoken and like told stories has been so amazing, like so incredible. I'm sure everyone agrees. If you agree, comment on the thing so Katie can see what you guys thought. Comment, rate Katie 0 to 10. But so like the question is, for how like nervous you were and like anxious and whatever for this session, like how has it been for you? Like it doesn't seem like you've been nervous running this right now. Like what happened?
I told you, I was like, right before we came on, I told you, I was like, whatever, we're going to go live. It'll be perfect. It'll be fine. It'll just roll. And that's exactly what happened. Like you hit live and right then, like, yeah, my heart was going like a million miles an hour and like my mouth went like 100% dry, whatever. But it was fun. And it turned into like, oh my God, what happens if I don't, like, what happens if I do this? Like, they're going to think I'm crazy, blah, blah, blah. Like it rolled. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Like, I'd be totally down to do like 10 more of these.
That's awesome. We got a whole bunch of comments from Zachary. Great session. From Mathilde. Katie, you want to know what you are out of 10? Are you sure? You're at 12 out of 10.
Oh, good.
Christopher, so you're just telling the truth, Katie. Thank you so much. You're amazing. So I think we'll leave it at that. So we'll let you wrap it up. Don't think there's any more questions. There's just a whole bunch of like, you're the best, Katie. Katie's amazing. Katie this and that. So wrap us up. And just final quick announcements before Katie wraps it up. So next we may like, so the plan is like once a month, we're going to run sessions with a team. So the youth leader and the team leaders, and it's going to be on whatever topic they feel like. If you guys have any suggestions of topics that you guys want to hear about, let us know. Otherwise, they're just going to talk about whatever they're experts in. And we may have some sessions in between here and there, some like low-key like secret interviews with special guests and stuff. So whatever you guys, like we're doing this for you. So whatever you want to see, whatever you think will help your momentum, if you want to do every week, every other week, once a month, let us know because this is built for you guys. And with that, Katie, this is the final goodbye.
All right. So, I mean, we titled this Life After GYLS, and that's exactly what you're living right now. But just because we're not at GYLS doesn't mean we're not here still to serve you and to answer all your questions. And this is one great way, but obviously some people may not be able to make it or whatever the situation might be, is that we're all still here for you 100% of the time. And we've seen the outreach in the group within the last week, and I know that we're going to keep it going. And this is just one great way to do it. And there's plenty of great ways. And feel free, like, this is just one avenue. And y'all are creative. Y'all know what to do. If any of you want to create something like that, go for it. Like, don't leave it up just to the coaches. Like, you guys have the power. This is for you guys. So, and we're here for you guys. So if there's anything you need or if there's anything you want to accomplish and need our help, we're here.
Awesome. And actually, last thing, I forget who it was, but someone was talking about like setting up some weekly Skype calls, and like I can't set up 20 different calls with 20 different people, but coaches, if you're on here, connect with your home team, set up a weekly Skype call or monthly or whatever you want. Even just home teams, like if you, or even like some of your away team, like whoever, some of the heroes, if you guys want to have your own little Skype call or whatever, like that's awesome. Like you guys should definitely try and get a little group of people connected consistently. Consistency is key for habits. Like repetition is repo. It's the first step. Repetition. You guys have to do it over and over to make it a habit. So that's what I would say. And there's a whole bunch of awesome comments. We'll read them later. I don't think there's any more questions. And we went a solid hour. So wrap it up, Katie. Give us the final goodbye.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. I'm honored to have done this. Like I'm so happy with myself, and I'm so happy with you guys who have tuned in and like watched me talk. So with that, thank you for everything, guys. Thank you. I love you, and may you all have a beautiful week and a beautiful life and a beautiful everything. All right. So yeah.
Goodbye. Was it fun?
Fun.
All right. Bye, guys.